what about all the DLC characters? They don't have their amiibos out yet.
Dang it. Amiibo! Or amiibos. Is the plural of amiibo amiibos, or is it just amiibo? English is messed up enough as it is. Anyway, these little toys have created quite the cultural phenomenon. What with scalpers, collectors, and people who just sort of want some of them. Certain amiibos have also become ultra rare and have skyrocketed in price. Though they've come down in recent months, thankfully. We have communities of people working together to obtain these things. But why? What are these? What caused this all to happen? And was this Nintendo's plan from the beginning? Hello, it is Luxton, and today's video is sponsored by Samurai Buyer, a place where you can buy all of these amiibos on the cheap. Links in the description and more information at the end of the video. To fully understand what amiibo are and why this has happened, we should travel into the past and look at the history of the medium. Amiibo were not the first figures or toys to interact with video games by any means. It dates back decades. You could even say that Rob was one, though the first major predecessor to the amiibo were UB Funkies. These little toys, you'd buy them in little packs, and each one you'd put onto a hub that was connected via metal plates, as opposed to wirelessly, and putting them on would unlock whatever character you have, as well as a world, and you would explore it. It was a computer game introduced in 2007. Such primitive technology, ugh. Later would come Skylanders, a Spyro reboot by Activision. And this is what really got the ball rolling. Every figure would unlock a character or a level in the game. It was massively successful among children. Getting a toy and a game unlock at the same time? Mind-boggling. And it would do this wirelessly with better technology, an NFC chip within the figure. NFC meaning near-field communication. It would allow you to place the figures on a surface with the NFC reader, which definitely smoothed out the process. One of the major drawbacks to Skylanders, though, is that most of the characters were new and original. And it's kind of sad that that's a bad thing in this case. But I suppose it's how you look at it. Because, for example, the next big figurine collecting video game would be Disney Infinity, taking the same formula as Skylanders, but the characters were all your favorite Disney characters. And it would later introduce Marvel characters, and then Star Wars characters. Though I suppose they are Disney characters now. Whoa. Being that now the figurines' characters had a history to them, they were not only going into the hands of more children who just wanted more characters in their game, but also to children who enjoyed that history. And now there is a greater appeal to adults who collect Disney things. Cool figures of their favorite characters too. And in a cute and smooth art style as well. Plenty of people who don't even have the game would buy some of these figures just because they liked the character. And that is the same phenomenon we see affecting amiibos too. It wasn't too long after that that Nintendo announced their amiibo line, and this time, instead of original to your game characters, or Disney characters in a video game, now it's well-known video game characters in a video game. Perfectly pinpointing the target audience. Plus, amiibos would work across mini-games, initially Smash Bros. And Mario Kart, but soon more and more games would add this amiibo integration. Some debated against the usefulness of amiibo, however, stating that what they did was kinda lame, and even today, most amiibo integration is sorta tacked on to a game, not necessary. All the amiibo will do is unlock an optional costume or give you a small bonus. But the real draw to amiibo was with Smash Brothers. In Super Smash Bros., they would initially act as level 1 fighters that you would train all the way up to level 50, and they would learn how you fought, and act accordingly. Though some debated how much they actually learned how to fight, and how much was just merely pre-programmed. But I have a whole video on that debate right here, and I'll have a link to it at the end of the video as well. But useful or not, amiibo had a whole other factor involved in their value. the fact that they were Nintendo figurines. Nintendo fans love Nintendo characters, and a lot of Nintendo characters never get a lot of merchandise. Shulk, Captain Falcon, Wii Fit Trainer, Ness, Lucas, Olimar, Fire Emblem characters, and more. A lot of these characters don't have any official merchandise, or at least haven't had any in recent enough years to be a factor. And that is factor number one as to why certain amiibo are rare and very valuable. Because the characters they are don't have a lot of official merchandise about them. So this not only draws the attention of people wanting them for Smash, or for collectors fulfilling a collection, but it also draws the attention of people who are just fans of these characters. For instance, I have one friend who is a huge fan of Star Fox 64. It's one of his favorite games. So he really wanted a Star Fox amiibo, despite not owning anything from Nintendo since the GameCube. He just wanted a cool Fox figurine for his shelf. And that's just one example of many. Easily the biggest factor involved in a certain amiibo's value is how popular the character is. From an accountant's perspective, it makes perfect sense to make a lot more amiibo of popular characters. That's why if you go down to your Walmart or Best Buy today, they will have like 30 stinking Marios, and 20 Pikachus, and like 40 Links. I know mine do at least. Mario, Luigi, Yoshi, Link, Peach, Toon Link. These are all huge characters, so it makes sense to print them like crazy. And then there's characters like Wii Fit Trainer and Shulk. Both not so popular, so they don't make as many of them. But the lesser popular characters can't be that much less popular since they're all sold out. Right? Well, yes and no. From the typical market's perspective, most people will not want a Dark Pit amiibo. Heck, that's why my Best Buy has like 20 Dark Pit amiibos in stock, and they will never be sold. They've been sitting there for months. I've never seen that stock get smaller. I bought one, not because I like Dark Pit, no, I hate his edgy guts. I only bought one to complete the Smash set. So from Nintendo's perspective, it's all a gamble. They need to figure out the demand and make sure there is an appropriate supply. Which is a lot harder than you'd think. They've got a lot of money invested into these figures, so they don't want to make more than what will sell, but they also want as many available to sell as possible. And admittedly, they've failed a bit on that end. But either way, reason number two is the difficulty of supply and demand balancing. But maybe this scarcity was all done on purpose by Nintendo, Maybe it's all a conspiracy. More on that later. For now, let's talk about another reason. We can't just blame Nintendo for this Amiibo phenomenon. There are also scalpers. Scalpers is the term used for people who buy up the entire stock of something to resell online for a higher price. Seeing the value and popularity of Amiibo, this became commonplace. Scalpers would try to figure out which characters would have a low supply, but higher demand, and would buy up those amiibo in slogs. Sometimes hundreds of them, buying at $15 each and selling for $50. Desperate collectors, fans, and parents of said fans would cave in and buy them for these higher prices, which only encouraged more scalpers to arise, seeing how profitable it really is. As later waves of amiibo were announced, the pre-orders would sell out in minutes, which scared everyone that wanted them. Scalpers were always on the lookout and would buy them in bulk, seconds after pre-orders became available. Thankfully, this problem wouldn't keep going. Nintendo later talked to many retailers and set limits to how many amiibo someone could buy, setting the limit to one of each amiibo per customer. Some scalpers would still just go from store to store to store, buying one of each one, but that amount of inconvenience definitely slowed down the amount of scalping. Also, as a side note, this waste of space and oxygen. Username Mario to Plumber. He decided he was going to buy 100 Rosalina amiibo and claimed to be buying hundreds more, specifically to destroy them so nobody else could have them. What a stupid spaz honky. But he's not the only douche nozzle affecting the availability of Amiibo. An entire truck full of them, and other games too, was stolen in the UK. Never to be found. And here in California, we had port strikes. Okay, I guess that actually doesn't make them bad people. I mean, admittedly, there was a bit of an issue with the company that owned all the ports and a bunch of... They're not bad people. It just... The strikes happened at a really inconvenient time for Amiibo collectors. I mean, it wasn't like it was only affecting Amiibos. There was lots of other food and merchandise being affected by the port strikes as well. Millions upon millions of dollars were held back and even lost as a result of these strikes. But we're talking about Amiibos here. Let's focus on that. These port strikes lasted weeks, and those port strikes were right in the middle of an Amiibo shipment from Asia to North America, which only scared people even more. I want my Amiibos! So those are some other reasons involved. Stupid people and port strikes. All of these combine to create the great Amiibo sparsity. Well, at least of certain Amiibo, of the less popular in the mainstream characters that still have a very dedicated, though smaller fanbase around them. I'll have to come up with a catchier name for that. Gaswalokal Pumviskistisvdabat. Perfect. Entire subreddits and petitions were created to fight the Scalper Menace, and to help people get the Amiibos they all wanted. It's beautiful, really. A bunch of Nintendo fans coming together and doing something productive. Buying toys.
They're not toys!
Well, that's debatable. See, they're in like a weird middle ground between toys, figurines, and video game DLC. It's weird.
They're not toys.
Okay. But now, what if all of this was planned? This sparsity was all a conspiracy by Nintendo. They have done this in the past, after all. They've even said they purposefully keep the supply of some of their games low so that they stay higher in price. Ever notice how Nintendo games never seem to drop in price when the games are still new? And even when they do, it's much slower than usual games. The biggest factor into why that is that Nintendo keeps the supply of their games low. So could they be applying the same strategy to Amiibo? Oh, definitely. And perhaps now more than ever. They likely are limiting pre-orders to smaller amounts as well, to give the illusion of a much smaller supply than it actually is. Which changes how people act about Amiibo. People who want a certain number of them, or a certain set of them, originally may have wanted to just pick up one or two now and then, yeah, I'll get the rest later. But now, there's the fear that if they don't get them now, they won't get them at all. So people buy them as soon as they can, before they drop in price. And they start pre-ordering them, or going into the stores on release day, even if they were never the type of person to do that for anything else before. There's a first time for anything, and if they don't get the Amiibo now, they may never have a chance to again. They actually will. Nintendo just doesn't want them to know that. It changes people from basic consumers into a collector mindset, and there's a whole video about that specifically over on the Idea channel. This could easily have been Nintendo's plan all along, and what they've said about the scarcity of Amiibos kind of backs this up. They've been giving very mixed signals about if Amiibo will get second printings or not. Initially saying no, Amiibo will not be printed again, then later saying yes, we'll reprint some of them, but not all of them. And this only increased the number of people buying them as soon as they could. And store-exclusive Amiibo didn't make this any easier. In fact, Nintendo may have known that these Amiibo would have this frenzy surrounding them, and so they sold the exclusivity to these retailers. All in all, it is a very successful marketing campaign. People coming together and helping each other buy Amiibos, and buying Amiibos for themselves, and talking about buying Amiibos, and buying Amiibos, purchasing Amiibos, getting Amiibos, collecting Amiibos, getting Amiibos as soon as they can before they sell out. Really, it does all of Nintendo's advertising for them. Genius. And that is the Amiibo Phenomenon. So now to tell you where you can buy some rare, expensive Amiibo on the cheap. And the answer to that is Samurai Buyer, today's video sponsor. Samurai Buyer is a website that allows you to buy items from Japan. Samurai Buyer works as a proxy buying site. They buy any Japanese item for you and ship it to you, even if the original seller only sells to Japanese addresses. Samurai Buyer becomes your Japanese address. And most of the ultra-rare and overpriced Amiibos here in the States are normal priced or even lower in Japan. And yes, Japanese Amiibos work on American consoles. I got all of these Amiibos for only $100. Some of these Amiibos are even only only $8 each, which is significantly lower than the $15 it costs to buy them here in the States. Meaning, after shipping and handling fees, a lot of these are still cheaper to import from Japan than to buy them here in the States. So there are links in the description for the Amiibo stores on Samurai Buyer, and if you use the coupon code AMIIBO, you get 50% off of the service fee, which makes them even cheaper. Thanks for sticking around so long. As a reward, Samurai Buyer is having a giveaway. The prize? Any Amiibo of your choice, absolutely free. All you have to do is sign up on Samurai Buyer and subscribe to their YouTube channel. In 2 weeks, I'll post in the description and the comments of this video who the winner is. So until next time, stay awesome, and keep using that noggin! I just made a huge mess. I can finally open these Amiibo. I've had them for weeks.